This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Back at you today for episode 131. And it's officially week 3 of the NFL 2020 regular season. This Sunday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are headed up to Denver, and they're going to face a Broncos team that has been picked apart by injury. And we're 3 weeks into the season. But don't fall asleep on them. Don't do it. Don't do it. We're going to tell you why here shortly. Welcome back to the game preview episode. We're going to preview Sunday's game and much more for you here today on the show. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew. Joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucks fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. Evan, how you doing on this fine Thursday?
You know, when you said, it's always weird to me. Because people wait so long for football, and then it's already week 3. Like tonight, in a few hours, it's the start of week 3. You have your annual Jaguars versus Dolphins barn burner, but it's insane just how fast a season can go. I mean, obviously we're not done the season yet; there's still a long ways away, but it's just amazing to me. Even with no preseason or nothing, it just still zooms by, and yeah, it seems to happen every year. It seems to get faster every year too. So, excited to get this started. I mean, you said, the Broncos, it's only week 3. Technically for them, it's not even week 3 yet. They've played 2 football games, and them and the 49ers, I think, are probably in the worst shape in the NFL when it comes to injuries. So hopefully the Bucs are able to stay relatively healthy, because I mean, these injuries right now to all of these teams, it's killer.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into the game preview itself, and of course the injury report, we're going to catch you up on some Buccaneer headlines this week. Not a whole lot of news, but some roster acquisitions were made, and here's what they are. On Wednesday, the Buccaneers signed tight end Tanner Hudson to their 53-man roster off of their own practice squad, and they filled him into an open spot that it basically come from waiving Mazzy Wilkins. So they also waived Mazzy Wilkins, the cornerback, this week. And some more moves that were made. They also released rookie center Zach Shackelford from the practice squad on Tuesday, but they re-signed him on Wednesday. So there were 2 other spots open on the 16-man practice squad, and that was due to Tanner Hudson being signed and Mazzy Wilkins being waived. Or actually, I think Mazzy Wilkins' promotion to play last week is what made that hole, but I guess it doesn't matter because he's not here anymore. But those 2 spots on the practice squad went to cornerback Ross Cockrell and tight end Daniel Helm, who were both signed this week. Evan, what are your thoughts on these guys?
For a practice squad, I think Allman said this. Greg Allman, I think he said it too. For a practice squad, getting a guy like Ross Cockrell is, or Ross, I guess you say, yeah, Ross, whatever. It's a pretty big get for a practice squad. I mean, I think if this is correct, I believe a PFF, according to Pro Football Focus, in 2019, Cockrell had the 8th lowest NFL passer rating against for a cornerback, 68.1. He was decent last year at times, and he's been a solid player. So I think I'm kind of surprised. I guess they must really like Parnell Motley and must really think that maybe they would lose him if they put him on the practice squad, because I don't see a reason why this guy shouldn't be on the main roster. But, I mean, at this stage, he's probably better than Parnell Motley, I think. But, man, I mean, yeah, it's impressive get for the practice squad. Really is. I mean, the tight end they got is what it is. I mean, that's not a big deal. But, I mean, yeah, getting a guy like Cockrell is pretty significant. He actually he picked off the Bucs last year in London, which it seemed like in that game almost every Panther did. But you know, he's a solid player. He's 29 years old, so he's not going to be a guy that's 23, 24 and coming in and going to save the day. And I can't, even if he's actually promoted to the active roster, he's not going to save the day. But it's solid depth for a team that needs it. I'm surprised they were able to get him on the practice squad.
Yeah, definitely a good acquisition for the Buccaneers practice squad. And I mean, while he isn't a stud at the end of the day, getting a solid player like that is definitely a good feeling for the depth side of things. We talked during the offseason about the whole contingency plan, what are going to happen if teams have to, just kind of, I don't know, halfway through the season, reorganize things because you've got several players out due to one reason or another. But having a guy like that on the practice squad definitely is good looks. And that Bucs practice squad, there are definitely some guys there worth hanging on to, and I'm glad that they're in Tampa Bay. Now, let's go ahead and move on. We're going to get into the game preview itself, but before we break down how these teams stack up, I want to go over the latest injury report. Now, as far as I know, the injury report for today, Thursday, September 24th, that we're recording this, has not come out. So I'm going to be reading off of Wednesday's injury report. Evan, if you're able to confirm with me here in a second, I'm going to go ahead and start on these. So these are subject to change, but I think a lot of these we know the results of what's going to be happening after practice today. So let's just get into it. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, wide receiver Chris Godwin with a concussion is full participation. He practiced again today, and that is some damn good news for the Buccaneers because Chris Godwin practicing this week, Mike Evans practicing healthy this week means that for the first time this season, both of those guys are going to be on the field, hopefully 100% healthy. So having Chris Godwin back in the mix is definitely a good thing for this Bucs team.
Yeah, and I mean, you're exactly right that, for the first time this season that they're going to be healthy, both. I think Mike Evans showed on Sunday that his hamstring is good. I think he showed you on that 50-yard pass there from Tom Brady that his hamstring's all right. So, I think it should only benefit him. I mean, Godwin had a really good game in New Orleans and then was hit late. And then Mike Evans had a really good game against Carolina. So hopefully now you can put those two together and they can replicate some of the things they did last year where, I mean, really they were the offense pretty much. So
absolutely. Now moving on down the line on this injury report, another wide receiver pops up. It's number 10, Scotty Miller, with a hip/groin injury. He was limited participation in practice. Now, do you know his status today by chance?
I believe he was practicing. I would expect him to play. So
yeah, I think Scotty Miller is going to end up showing up, suiting up, and being a role in that offense this Sunday. Over on the defensive side of the ball, outside linebacker Jason Pierre-Paul with a knee injury was limited participation. He'll be good to go come Sunday. Next one is offensive tackle Donovan Smith with a knee injury. He was limited participation, and another one of those guys that I truly believe is going to be good to go come Sunday. And this last name on the injury list, I think, is the odd man out. I don't think he plays Sunday, and it's because he didn't practice today either. But that's wide receiver Justin Watson with a shoulder injury. He was limited participation yesterday, and again, I believe did not practice today.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't believe he practiced yesterday either. I think I looked at the injury report and it said limited, but I don't believe he practiced yesterday. So I really don't think he did. Says shoulder.
I remember week 1 when Mike Evans was doing individual drills with a trainer outside of practice. He was still listed as limited that day, I believe, right?
I think, but I mean, Pewter Report and Greg Allman, I think, both said they didn't see him yesterday. So, I mean, I don't know. You don't believe he was practicing today. It says shoulder. I thought it might have been a wrist because if you guys remember, on the third down, he dropped the ball and he sort of fell pretty hard on his wrist and it looked pretty painful. So I wasn't sure. But yeah, if I had to guess, I would say he's probably out and this could maybe be a debut of Tyler Johnson, maybe.
That was going to be my follow-up question with Justin Watson not being there. Do we finally see some Tyler Johnson this week?
I think he could. It all depends. A lot of people were questioning when Cyril Grayson was on the team and Tyler Johnson wasn't against Carolina. And the big thing is that Tyler Johnson, I mean, you want to talk about rookies not really having a shot. Tyler Johnson didn't have barely any training camp.
Yeah.
He was dealing with that soft tissue injury the whole time that really kept him out. And then, I mean, he just might not be ready yet, with no preseason or anything like that. He's just a guy that may not be ready. And maybe, I know Bruce Arians had said there were some rookies that showed up to camp out of shape. Maybe Tyler Johnson was one of those guys. I'm not saying he is. I'm just speculating here. So maybe he was one of those guys, which is kind of understandable with no off-season program really, no real chance to speak to a team nutritionist or anything like that. You're sort of on your own. So maybe he was one of those guys, and that led to the injury. I will see if he's ready. If he's ready, I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be in. If he's not in, I would just assume that, hey, they think he needs another week or two. So basically, I mean, with Godwin coming in, Justin Watson going out won't impact much. I think Surreal Grayson would probably be the guy that's in. You might see maybe a little bit of Jaden Mickens at receiver. I don't really think you saw that at all on Sunday. So maybe, like they saw Surreal Grayson at receiver. Maybe they'll give Mickens a shot at receiver. But I would guess, Watson, if you're not practicing today, it's not likely that you're going to play. And like you said, Mike Evans being limited in practice that one time that he was seen on with the trainers or whatever, but wasn't really practicing. Mike Evans is a little bit different than Justin Watson. So I think the Bucs kind of pushed Mike Evans to play in that game in New Orleans. I don't think the Bucs are going to be pushing Justin Watson. So
yeah, that's very, very true. Now, you brought up the role that would be filled with Justin Watson not playing, and you brought up Tyler Johnson. I know we talked endlessly during the offseason and even during training camp. It's a tough year to be a rookie. It really, really is. So if Tyler Johnson shows up week 3 against Denver and he doesn't look ready, well, you also kind of have to remember that at this point, if you're a rookie and you haven't really gotten any reps, it's kind of trial by fire. I mean, I think there's no other way to put it. Yeah, maybe you can get some practice reps during the week. There is nothing that's going to replicate being on the field under the lights in an NFL football game. So we'll see what happens, but I'd like to see Tyler Johnson, and if it doesn't work out, I would like to see Jadon Mickens at wide receiver. Personally, he isn't doing too much for me at a returner position. He looks a little timid back there. Somebody else had pointed that out on one of our older episodes, and I agree. I think it might be time to move on from Jadon Mickens as a returner, but I would love to see if he has any potential out of the receiving position. Now let's take a look at this other team's injury report, and good God, is it a long one. Now I'm going to tell you about the big ones that you already know about. This Broncos team is missing a lot of big pieces. I mean, they've got defensive ends, Draymond Jones, DeMarcus Walker, those guys are missing time. And then out for the season, they've got wide receiver Cortland Sutton, defensive end Vaughn Miller, and then starting cornerback who they just signed from Jacksonville, A.J. Bowie. So, oh man, I mean, we'll talk about it more in the game preview. Let's finish up this injury report. But here is the latest from the Broncos. Cornerback Devontae Harris with a hamstring injury did not participate at practice. Running back Phillip Lindsay with a foot injury did not participate. Quarterback Drew Lock, who's going to be missing a couple of weeks with a right shoulder injury, did not participate. He won't be playing Sunday. Defensive end Jarrell Casey with an elbow injury, limited participation yesterday at practice. Defensive end Shelby Harris with a neck injury, limited participation yesterday. Rookie wide receiver Jerry Jeudy with a rib injury, limited participation at practice yesterday. And safety Trey Marshall bringing up the rear with a hip and wrist injury, limited participation yesterday as well. So I'd say most of those limited guys have a good chance of playing this week. I think you're going to see Jerry Jeudy suit up. The way that he put it from some of the conferences I had seen him have, he said, it wasn't necessarily a big hit. It was just a hit that got me right where it needed to get me, is the way that he put it. So I'm expecting him to suit up. I mean, he's still got a lot to prove, and having that rookie out there is definitely going to be something that this offense will be leaning on. So the Broncos, they're just beat up, dude. They're beat up, but let's say this. They're missing Drew Lock. So the Broncos lost second-year starting quarterback Drew Lock, a guy who showed a lot of promise, and they're going to lose him to a few weeks. So they're turning to second-stringer Jeff Driscoll to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I know that the Broncos signed Blake Bortles this week. Evan, I don't think we see Blake Bortles take on the Bucs. I just think the time frame is way too short.
Why? I just don't understand. I think people saw that they signed a quarterback, saw that they recognized the Blake Bortles name, and just assumed and just forgot about anything else that's like a thing in football, and just especially this year, and just assume that he'll just start. Okay, so the Bucs are gonna be facing him. No, the dude has to take 3 COVID tests. I don't even think he can join the team until tomorrow. So we're recording this on Thursday. He can't even join a team until Friday, and then he has to learn an entire playbook. The dude's not playing. If Driscoll gets hurt, the third string will come in, and it won't be Bortles. Like I'm just saying, like the dude is not playing at all. I don't even know if he'll be active on Sunday. So yeah, you're not going to see any of him.
Yeah, so Jeff Driscoll taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this Denver team, we talked about the injuries. They've played a part in an 0-2 start for this squad, but the Broncos have not been losing these games very easily. They played the Titans and they played the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're holding their own. Like, they lost both of those games, I believe, within one possession. And we've talked about how the Bucs were doing that last year. And, you know, if you flip it, then they go a great record, great playoff run, all that stuff. So what I'm trying to say is that this Broncos team, while they are beat up, they're still efficient. They're putting points on the board, and you got to look out for them. I mean, you just cannot sleep on these guys, because if you fall asleep and you expect an easy win in the NFL, we see it happen all the time. You know what I mean? And this has upset written all over it if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go into this game just expecting a win. Like, you have to be ready.
Well, I think you chose maybe a wrong set of words there, because I think that's what they need to do. I think they need to do it every game. They need to expect to win. But what they can't do is they can't say we don't have to play great to win.
Right. No, I get that. I appreciate the correction. Thank you. So,
yeah, Denver has lost their first 2 games. Combined in those games, they've lost by a total of 7 points. They lost by 5 against Pittsburgh and 2 against Tennessee. So they're playing some close games. Now, I know that Tennessee, they had Drew Lock. I believe they had A.J. Boye. They had those guys. And then against Pittsburgh, they didn't. But Pittsburgh's, I think, a better team than Tennessee, and that game was in Pittsburgh, and they gave Pittsburgh a run for their money a little bit. So this Denver team is definitely not one that the Bucs kids can't go in here and think, okay, well, we got it. You know what this reminds me of? And this is going to be super random.
You're going to piss a lot of people off, probably.
No, I don't think so, because it was a good result. So
okay,
I don't think
all
I
right.
am.
That's fair.
This reminds me kind of the. Now, if you go back to the 2016 season, we all remember that.
I thought you were going to say 2014. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm not bringing that up. There was nothing good about that. Go back to that 2016 season. You all remember the 5-game win streak. But there was a win in that season against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers were coached by Chip Kelly. They were a horrible football team. I believe at the time they were like 1-5 or 1-6, something like that. And the Bucs were on the road, just like they are now. It was on the West Coast, just like it is. And the Bucs went down in that game. The Bucs were supposed to win, right? They were supposed to win the game. Colin Kaepernick was the starting quarterback for the 49ers. And all of a sudden, the 49ers go up 14-0. And you're thinking, oh, boy. But the Bucs rallied back, tied it at 14, and I think they ended up winning 34-17 or something. So that sort of gives me this kind of vibe that, like, the Bucs just can't. I feel like the Bucs in that early part of that San Francisco game, this is the point I'm trying to make. They felt like they were just better and that they didn't need to show up as much. They get down 14-0, and all of a sudden, oh, wow, we got to play. Exactly. You still have to play the game. They should win this football game. And I predicted them to lose this football game in the season prediction show. However, I think you got to put an asterisk next to it because, man, didn't expect the Broncos to be missing their number 1 wide receiver, their number 1 quarterback, their number 1 cornerback, one of their running backs. It's rough. And Von Miller. Wasn't expecting all that. So I definitely think they need to go in here and take care of business. And I like what Bruce Arians said. Basically, they haven't done anything yet. So why, if you overlook this team, that's unacceptable. And that's, playoff teams, they win this game no matter what, right? playoff teams, we talked about with Trevor, and I believe James as well, we talked about it a little bit. This year's got to be beating the teams you're supposed to beat. Now, if the Broncos were completely healthy, I think these two teams are very close if the Broncos are completely healthy. They aren't. So the Buccaneers are the better team. Win the game. Just come out with the win, beat the teams you're supposed to, take care of business, and go home. Don't overlook it, because if you do, you're going to be in the headlines on Monday morning, but it's going to be for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, you just got to go in there and get your job done. So let's take a look at this Broncos team from top to bottom. I want to look at the offense first, and I'll tell you, first and foremost, a guy that I am somewhat worried about, because it seems like guys in this position always seem to give Tampa Bay problems. That's their tight end, Noah Fant. He was drafted 20th overall in 2019, and he's been a favorite target for it really doesn't even matter who's under center with Denver. Drew Lock was throwing it to him a lot. Jeff Driscoll is definitely throwing him the ball a lot. And he's not just any tight end. He's a tight end that I guess a lot of people could compare to O.J. Howard. He's a tight end with 4.5 speed. I mean, that could be a pretty long day for the Bucs defense if, simply put, they just don't get this guy under wraps.
Yeah, and that wasn't an issue really against Carolina. Carolina used to have Greg Olsen all them years, and now
who definitely doesn't have 4.5 speed. Let's remind everybody of that.
No, for sure. But
he always found a way to be 15 yards open, dude. It used to piss me off so bad. He'd walk his old ass out to the middle of the field and just sit.
It's basically like Jason Witten too. Like Jason Witten's not gonna wow you with anything, but he just gets open. That's how they made a living. So basically, in New Orleans, they played Jared Cook. And I thought they did a decent job on Jared Cook. Obviously, they had the one that you're going to look at, the coverage breakdown, whatever. Carolina doesn't really have a tight end threat. So now you're playing, I think, the best tight end you've played all year in Noah Fant, and you got to play good. This is where you got to look at Devin White, Levante David, because they're going to be matched up with Noah Fant some of the time. But you mainly got to look at Jordan Whitehead and Antoine Winfield. Both guys were fantastic on Sunday. Whitehead had a bad game in New Orleans, rebounded huge against Carolina. Both those guys have to play good, and they got to shut him down. If you shut him down, the Broncos' offense is largely, honestly, going to be probably Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon for the most part. You shut one of those two things down, I like your chances. You let him go off and do whatever he wants against you, it could be a long day, and it could be one of them flashback days where you're expecting the Bucs defense to do good. They've played good all year, but then they give up, 3 touchdowns and 300 yards to Driscoll because Noah Fant has 10 catches for 120 yards, and you can't stop him. So it's definitely going to be a task for the safeties, and they're going to have to play good. It's a big matchup. And like you said, it's sort of like an O.J. Howard type. He's a very good athlete that's playing tight end. This isn't some, even Jared Cook doesn't have 4.4, 4.5 speed. He doesn't have that type of speed. Noah Fant's a completely different animal, and yeah, they got to do a really good job, because now, especially with Courtland Sutton out, that it's going to go. A lot of targets are going to go to him. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another guy you brought up on that offense I wanted to bring up as well, that's running back Melvin Gordon, a free agent acquisition that they had this offseason. What are your thoughts on Melvin Gordon? You brought up that this offense is primarily probably going to run through him, and of course a little bit of Noah Fant as well, but you look at Melvin Gordon, he's an all right rusher, but he definitely gets his money in the receiving game. So how do you expect them to come out and just play him this Sunday?
So when I looked at the film, I saw that they tried to get Melvin Gordon involved in the passing game a lot, and I think they're going to do that too here. I think they're going to see that, the Bucs gave up a few yards of McCaffrey through the air, and they gave up most of the yards that Kamara got were through the air. So I think they're going to try to get Gordon involved. And, I mean, he had this great wheel route for a touchdown the other day. Driscoll threw a dime. Perfect pass. I think they got to be on the lookout, and that's going to be mostly the linebackers. That's going to be Levante David and Devin White. I understand that Devin White had a big tackle day, right? Stat number day.
Leading tackler in the NFL. I mean, it wasn't just a big tackle day. He's numero uno on top of that stat list right now.
Yeah, but here's the Debbie Downer part of it.
It's week 3.
Well, and I don't think he was that great. I think he was much better in New Orleans. He missed some tackles that he normally doesn't miss. Uh, he took some bad angles, took some weird angles. I think he was much better in New Orleans. So he's gonna have to be better this week than he was last week if he's gonna. I still think he was good, but he wasn't that as good as New Orleans. So
I had heard some other people. I chimed in, listened to the Pewtercast live call show after the game, and I know Ren Daxt had brought it up, and I don't know if people crapped on him for it or what, but he brought up that he really was not impressed with Devin White in the second half of last Sunday's game. So I can definitely agree with you that maybe he did fall off that second half, but we know that he has the potential. He's definitely a solid part of that defense, and as of right now, a lot of it runs through him. So you're definitely going to want him to show up on Sunday. But I think you're not the only one who saw that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a big task for the linebackers. I think, I still think the run defense was a little leaky on Sunday. I think at times.
Yeah.
And part of it was, I think, Devin White missing some tackles. So he's gonna have to play good. I think if you're able to shut down Gordon in the run game, I know the Broncos definitely don't want to have Driscoll pass, 35, 40 times. So if you can do that, you're playing right into the Bucs' hands, and their pass rushers can just tee off. So another person, two players I'm looking at, obviously Courtland Sutton's down, but I'm looking at Jerry Jeudy, of course, number 15th overall pick, considered by many as the best wide receiver in the draft this past year. And he fell. Really, a lot of people maybe thought he was going top 10. I mean, he thought a team would trade up for him, and he fell to the Broncos, and he played a solid game. I think Driscoll, obviously, Sutton was in the game, but Driscoll definitely looked for Jeudy a whole lot more, I think. So they seem to have decent chemistry, and maybe that's because during camp, maybe Driscoll got a lot of work with the twos. Jeudy got some work with the twos. So I think you gotta be able to watch out for that. Secondary's gonna have to do their job, and also KJ Hamler, the speedster, who was, I believe, drafted this year as well. He is a guy that can burn you deep, and I think the Bucs are really going to have to keep an eye on that, because I don't think Denver's going to take too many shots in this game, but I think when they do, I think Hamler will be the guy they look to get it done with. So another guy like Tim Patrick, he's kind of underrated. I think they need to pay attention to him. So even though Courtland Sutton's out, and that's a big loss, that is a huge loss for this Denver offense, because so much of what they do revolves around Sutton. But even though he's gone, I still think they have some. It's sort of like Carolina. Like, they don't have, obviously their guys are much more inexperienced than Carolina's, and Carolina's as young as is. But I think it's underrated. And Carolina had some success through the air against the Bucs, and the Saints really didn't. So I think they're going to have to play good. I think that, there's other factors them playing good. I think the defensive line, this Broncos O-line, Rhett, I think you might need an ambulance for Driscoll after that, man, because this O-line and Driscoll, the thing about him is when he's under pressure, he's not good. But if you give him time, like most quarterbacks, he's going to be able to make a throw. He's not like horrible to where like some backups on some teams, you could say, "Oh my God."
He started a few games for Cincinnati last year, if I remember.
Yeah,
like he's definitely.
Well, he was in Detroit, and then he played a few games for Detroit. I believe he. No, he didn't. No, that was Joey Blau that played on Thanksgiving. I was thinking Driscoll was the guy that played for Detroit on Thanksgiving, but that wasn't him.
So definitely not Driscoll's first rodeo.
No, I believe he's 1-7 as a starter. So one win, but it's definitely not something to overlook. Also, he can do stuff with his legs. They ran a lot of play action rollout stuff against Pittsburgh. I'd expect them to maybe do it again, get him moving, because behind that O-line, you don't want to have him sit there too long. So I think they're going to want to do that. So I think the Bucs need to really keep their contain. I predicted, of course, on the Monday show, I predicted that Shaq Barrett was going to get 2 sacks, and I'm sticking with that. I think Shaq Barrett is going to come in, face his former team, who he was with for 4 years, and they let him walk, which I can't really blame him. I mean, they got Von Miller and Bradley Chubb as their 2 pass rushers. There's not much room for Barrett there, but so they let him walk. And I think, I mean, what was the Levante David, I think, said that he's been so focused, or so I think he's the one who said that, and I believe it. I think Barrett really wants to, stick it to the Broncos, and 2 sacks coming for Shaq Barrett against the horrible Broncos offensive line. So I think secondary is underrated, but as you saw on Sunday, pressure, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater, whether it's Jeff Driscoll, pressure will make pretty much any quarterback look bad. And Bucs didn't get enough pressure on Drew Brees in New Orleans. They got plenty of pressure on Teddy Bridgewater against Carolina, and hopefully they'll be able to continue it here.
Absolutely. I'm expecting a big day for this Buccaneers defense, but I want to take a look at this Denver defense before we talk about Tampa Bay expectations for this Sunday. So 2 guys, one of them you had just mentioned, but 2 guys that stand out to me on that Denver defense are star safety Justin Simmons. He actually just signed a long-term deal, I think, last summer. And then, of course, they've got outside linebacker Bradley Chubb, the 5th overall pick in the 2018 draft. I know you were a pretty big fan of that kid. He missed most of last season with a torn ACL, but his rookie year, he put up 12 sacks. So he definitely has the potential. Doesn't have a sack this year yet, though.
Well, now he's due for 5. Thanks. Just because you said that. So, yeah, I mean, Chubb was, he was a guy that was my number 1 target. That was the year where the Bucs traded back and got Vita Vea. But the 3, if you remember, were Saquon Barkley, Bradley Chubb, and Quentin Nelson. Wherever you look back on it, if any of them were that 7, I think the Bucs probably couldn't go wrong, besides drafting a running back in the top 10. But
a running back who is not playing this year.
Okay, well, you can't factor in injuries, so
you can't. I take it back. Sorry,
the Bucs aren't going to play Saquon Barkley at week 8 versus the Giants, and they didn't play him week 3, it was week 3 last year versus the Giants. Really, I mean, you played the first quarter.
When did he get injured? It was first quarter.
It was like the first or second. It was like the first quarter or early in the second quarter. Most of the game he wasn't in.
Yeah,
because that was the big thing. Like, how do you lose to this Giants team being up 18 and Saquon Barkley's out? So now, I mean, they're, again, not going to play Barkley. It's kind of crazy. But, I think Bradley Chubb is just such a weapon. And losing Von Miller, of course, kills this defense. This defense is lethal with those 2 guys on either side rushing. I mean, that's such a luxury. And now they got Jarrell Casey up the middle, who I believe they got for like a 6th round pick or something this year. Like, what is Tennessee thinking? Their defensive line still has some talent, even with Von Miller gone, and Bradley Chubb's a big reason why. So I think it's going to be Wirfs going up against Chubb. I think Chubb rushes from that side, so it's not going to be Donovan Smith. So, I mean, hey, rookie, you got Cam Jordan week 1. Week 2 is a little bit lighter. Week 3, we're right back to the gauntlet. So
I got faith in Tristan Wirfs, and I got faith in this offensive line as a whole. Now, I do want to say, good week for them last week. I don't think we talked enough about it on the show.
But against a very weak Panthers defensive line.
Absolutely.
But they had a good week, but let's not forget to note that, I mean, there's a defensive line that wasn't good to begin with and was missing Yatir Gross-Matos and Kawan Short. So
yeah, but I think the expectations for this Sunday are obviously going to be the same. Like, you got to keep pressure off of Brady. We've talked about it before. When that offensive line does its job, I think that's when any offense plays its best. But you give Brady time in the pocket, that's all he needs, baby. So
you know why the Ravens and Broncos always seem to have the Patriots number, like from like 2015 to like 2018, really?
Brady does not have a good record against the Broncos. I believe they're the only team in the NFL that he is negative against, but it's that pressure, dude.
Yeah, exactly. The Ravens and the Broncos are the only teams that can consistently hit him. They're the only teams that consistently hit that guy, and it's going to be the same story on Sunday. If Tom Brady is getting hit every play, I don't like the Bucs' chances. It may not be the prettiest game, but I don't like the Bucs' chances if every time he's getting hurried or hit, or you saw what he could do with a clean pocket. I believe he had a 91.9 passer rating or something like that with a clean pocket. It's really, really good. Brady has, I just looked it up. So Brady has an 8-9 overall record against the Broncos, which includes his 1-3 postseason mark. So if you take out Actually, during the regular season, he's actually 7-6 against them during the regular season. So he last visited Denver and played against the Broncos in 2017 when the Patriots eased to a 41-16 win. So his last one was pretty good. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Of course, I mean, protecting him is big, but I think maybe developing a run game is big too.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about that here in a second, but taking a look at this Buccaneers offense, I wanted to talk about your expectations for this Sunday. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about Mike Evans and Chris Godwin being back. I think that's going to do wonders for Brady, just continuing to build chemistry with this offense. But
I kind of like it, you know? So basically, he threw to Godwin a bunch week 1 and then was able to throw to Evans a bunch week 2. So he got chemistry with both of them and didn't have to worry about one or the other.
Yeah, most definitely. But, you know, with that being said, we talked about the run game getting developed. What are your expectations for this offense? What do they have to do well this Sunday?
I mean, I like the style that they have right now. I like like Trevor referenced, the bullpen, right? Jones, the starter. And then you have McCoy in on third down. And then you have Fournette in late third quarter. And then the whole fourth quarter, take it home, right? Take it home, brother.
Sweep it on up.
You know, just keep doing it. I mean, if it works, if it doesn't work on Sunday, I hope you adjust. Also, if you're not in an opportunity to close a game, I hope you don't say, oh, Fournette's the guy. No, like, he's our closer. He's in. No, like, if you're down 3 in the fourth quarter and you think Jones or McCoy is a better option, don't keep Fournette in there if he can't get it going. Just because you say he's your closer. No, I think they would adjust. But I mean, Bucks are up 10 in the fourth quarter. Hand it off to Fournette. Just let him do it. Obviously not every play, but 90% of the time, man, I'm handing it off. The big issue with Carolina last week, which I'm not sure how Denver's going to roll, just because it's a different quarterback, but Carolina, I don't think the Bucs were really threatened by Carolina's ability to score because every drive took so long.
Yeah.
When Carolina was able to kick the field goal to make it a 7-point game, there was 2 minutes left on the clock. Like, it took so long for Carolina to score, and I think that had a factor in it of the Bucs who said, hey, we're going to run it, and we're going to waste some clock, but Carolina we know is going to take at least 4 to 5 minutes to score, so we're not going to rush it too much. So we're not going to go out passing and stuff like that, try to stop the clock for them. And I think this could be a potential same matchup kind of. Bucs get up early, maybe not, I don't think as big. I don't think they'll be up 21-0, but and then they just hold on. I think maybe Denver surges a little bit, but Bucs hold on. Bucs get a few key runs from Fournette here and there, a few key first downs, and are able to bring it home, hopefully. So I think that's a big key. I would stick with what works, and I think right now the bullpen is sort of the best option for them currently.
I wanted to ask you your opinion on something because I've heard you mention it a few times. I think you might have brought it up once or twice on the last show, but you said that expectations for this Denver game, you're not expecting a high-scoring game. And I mean, in the sense of high-scoring, in my opinion, high-scoring is over 30 points for either team. I think the average NFL score, you're going to score anywhere between 20 and 30 on a good day, but high-scoring to me is over 30 points. What stops this team, do you think, from from scoring big?
Well, it's a Denver defense. I still think has talent. I know they're missing Boye. I know they're missing Miller. But they got talent. They still do. In the secondary, Justin Simmons is just a stud safety. I know Tom Brady's going to try to look him off a bunch, but he's going to be matched up with Gronk or OJ or something like that, and most of the time. And hey, if they can't get them going, I think another factor is, this offense is still, like Trevor said, they weren't that different against Carolina. It's just they were playing a worse defense and didn't turn the ball over as much.
To be fair, there were also just a lot less of those stupid BS penalties.
Yep,
You
exactly.
didn't shoot yourself in the foot.
Yep, they cleaned it up. They absolutely cleaned it up. They didn't have a special teams turnover when the offense was about to get the ball back. They didn't jump off sides on a 4th and 2. On that fake punt, they didn't jump off sides and give Carolina a first down. They stopped the fake punt. So I mean, yeah, that's big. But I just still think this Bucks offense is just not quite there yet. And I think that's the reason why I think it'll be a lower scoring game. And when I say lower scoring, I mean like I picture both teams in the teens. I don't
Wow.
think this is going to be a very pretty game. I think at times you're going to be like, wow, this is boring because nobody scored for the past 20 minutes. But yeah, I think you're going to see a fairly low-scoring game here. I think the Bucks defense is going to play well. Two other factors, and not many people are talking about them. One, the Denver. That altitude there, it's a real thing. Players deal with it. Shaq Barrett even said it may take them a few drives, like to really get like acclimated to it.
Yeah.
So players that struggle, I mean, I'm looking at like the offensive line. Like the Bucks offensive line, defensive line. I think
You're just
you look
looking at all the
those
fat
two.
guys. It's cool. You can say it.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, hey, we're no slim pickings ourselves, so it's all right. But I'm looking at those guys and just they might struggle a little bit. So I think that's a factor. Another thing, this is the first time this season the Buccaneers are playing in front of fans. There's going to be fans in that stadium on Sunday.
Yeah, a lot of people
So
don't know that.
That's a factor. It's different than crowd noise. Yeah, when you're back in your own end zone, it's gonna be maybe a little loud, and the communication may not be as good as you'd like it to be. So, I think that's a factor, and I just think both defenses right now seem a little bit ahead of each other's offenses. So maybe not around the league because, like you saw, the Falcons scored 39 points and lose, even though they shouldn't have. The Falcons the week before scored 30 points and lose. I forget really who else scored. I mean, the Patriots scored 30 points, lost. So defenses aren't really ahead of offenses, but it seems like with these two teams, it's kind of the case. So low scoring game, I think.
Yeah, you brought up the fans, and I wanted to also kind of tack this on. I don't know the number of people that the Broncos are letting in their game. I know Dallas had a little over 20,000 people in their stadium.
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that. But again, even though it's not going to be a lot of people, having real people there is much different. There was an NFL head coach, I think it was Sean Payton after week 1. He had described the pumped-in crowd noise over the PA speakers. He said it's like a loud cocktail party. Like it really is not anything that's deterring these players or distracting them or interrupting huddles or play calls or anything like that. So even though it's not going to be a full stadium, it's a much different aspect when you've got real life people probably shouting obscenities at you, which I'm sure the recorded PA just doesn't really catch. But let's take a look at this Buccaneers defense. I want to talk about expectations for Sunday. We're going to get into the weekly checklist. Then we're going to break this bad boy down and get out of here. So expectations for the defense. I think this one we don't have to go into as much detail because we hit the nail on the head. Just expecting a big day. You know what I mean? Expecting a big day for this pass rush. Like, you're going to have to keep pressure on Jeff Driscoll, and I'm sure that in the process of doing so against the bad offensive line, you're going to see quite a few sacks. And I agree with you. I think Shaq Barrett, the man, he finally shows up this week. He gets, not double digit, Jesus Christ, in one game. He gets a couple of sacks on the board, so I'll be looking forward to that. But definitely expecting a big game from this defensive line and a lot of hits on the quarterback.
Yeah, they're going to have to if they want to win. I think Jeff Driscoll's a guy who, if you just let him sit there, I think he's going to pick you apart. You let him just sit there. And I think that's most quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
You got to get him uncomfortable. I watched the tape, and Driscoll, man, whenever he gets pressured, he throws high. He always misses high. He missed two curl routes. It was basically the same route. He missed it both because the Steelers just got in his face, and both were high balls. The one interception that he had wasn't his fault. It went right off Cortland Sutton's hand into the defender's hand. He played a solid game, and the Steelers still got pressure on him. So the Bucs are gonna have to find different ways to get pressure. I think blitz a little bit, maybe get more creative with.
Oh, well, they're blitzing.
Your stunts, and
at this point, you just have to expect it 60-70% of the time.
your stunts, your blitzes. So. And also, I don't feel like the defense took their foot off the gas pedal. but it'd be nice if you get up 17-0, just let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
I feel like the defense kind of played, and I think that was another factor. I think the defense realized Carolina was not going to score in a minute against them. So Carolina, if they were going to score, it was going to take 4 to 5 minutes.
They're
6
keeping
minutes.
them on the field.
So yeah, I mean they're wasting time. That's all that was in the fourth quarter. They're playing zone, a soft zone. They're wasting time. A little bit too much for me. I think they should play more man, but whatever. Beggars can't be choosers, I guess. But actually, Rep, before you get into the weekly checklist. Before all that happens, the injury report was released just now. So we got Scotty Miller was, I believe, limited today. Let's see. Yeah, Chris Godwin, full participation. I think they just have to really keep him on here for this week. So Scotty Miller, limited participation. Jason Pierre-Paul, it's listed as a knee, even though it said it did not participate, which we remember either Wednesday or Thursday is normally a maintenance day for him.
Yeah, he normally has a vet day once a week.
But normally it says it, so I mean maybe it really is a vet day. Donovan Smith was limited participation with his knee. If you remember, Josh Wells came in for a play and just got blown up. That's probably what that is. And then Justin Watson did not participate. So, yeah, right here it looks like Justin Watson's definitely probably going to be out. Pierre-Paul should be good to go. And then I think that's it. I don't have the Broncos one up, but that's for the Bucs at least. That's that.
Oh, hey, much appreciated. Appreciate the listeners getting an updated look at the injury report. So there is the latest one to come out, and pretty much the status of all of those guys we had talked about. I think the same as before, but we'll see what happens Sunday. So we broke down this Denver team, went over some expectations for this Buccaneers team. Before we wrap things up, we do a little thing here on the game preview episodes. It's called the weekly checklist, and it's 3 little things that I think the Bucs are just going to have to do if they want to win this game. If they don't do all 3 of these, then they're probably going to lose. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's my list. Maybe I just want to say that to feel right. I don't know. But these are very important, and I think sometimes overlooked. So let's get right into it. The weekly checklist. First things first. Make your kicks. Ryan Succop made all of his kicks in Tampa Bay and Raymond James Stadium, and that was a feat within itself because I remember we talked on that game preview show about how obviously kicking in Raymond James can be kind of weird. Let's bring up the altitude again. It's a real thing, and I'm sure that it affects kickers as well. So expecting Ryan Succop to go in there and keep knocking him down just like he has been. He has been pretty good so far, so he's got to make his kicks.
Steven Gostkowski missed 4 kicks in the first game in Denver, so let's hope for a repeat. Let's not hope for a repeat of that.
Oh,
also, you took my brand basically. That was going to be my thing. Because I always say you always say, "Was there any more?" I say, "Make your kicks." I said the last 2 weeks, and I was going to say that I'm taking credit for it. So,
okay.
And I was going to say basically my thing is I'm always going to say make your kicks until week 8, and if he's consistent, then I won't say it no more. But this is definitely a game that I think it's gonna be low scoring, so I think it's gonna be a tight game. And you're right, that a field goal, a missed extra point, that could be a difference between winning or losing right there.
Absolutely. Second thing on the weekly checklist. Don't drop the damn ball.
It's simple.
Yeah, I know it is pretty easy. Sometimes can be overlooked, especially last Sunday. But I mean, 3 drop touchdowns. It's points taken off of a board, and just like Evan had mentioned, expecting a tighter, low-scoring game, those points are going to matter. Even if it's field position, just hang on to the damn ball. You don't need.
How much you bet they hit the jug machine this week?
Oh my! I mean, how many times do you think they hit the jug machine this week? What do you think their number was before they could get off of it?
I don't know. I always wanted one of those. I always thought they were neat.
Yeah, practice your one-handed catch.
Probably so expensive to get one, but yeah, I always thought they were neat. Yeah, I mean, you know how some baseball players have the side of their house and they have a net and stuff for the pitching thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I just want one of those, but with a jugs machine.
Oh man,
what is so wrong with that? I'm gonna make that a goal of mine. At some point, I'm gonna get a jugs machine. At some point in my life. So
one day when I win the
Shady McCoy must have spent an hour after practice doing that.
Oh man. Well, once I hit the lottery and I open up the Cannon Fire compound, we'll come over. We got a bunch of gyms. TB12 Nutrition will be sponsoring us. It'll be great.
We gotta Yeah, we gotta trademark that name right now or
Cannon
something. We
Fire
gotta put some.
Compound, baby.
Yeah, we gotta
Hell
file.
yeah.
We gotta file some trademarks for that.
So let's wrap up the weekly checklist. We'll get into some score predictions. Number 3, final thing on the weekly checklist, unless you have anything to add, just don't fall asleep on this team. I know we mentioned it, and I think this Buccaneers team, is in a much better place mentally than they've ever been. Like truly and honestly,
Ever been
if you look at, well, not
when they
ever,
were
but I mean,
12-4 and won the Super Bowl?
right, yeah. If you look at the Bucs teams of the last 10 years,
There we go.
We've talked about it endlessly as Bucs fans. You guys already know what I'm talking about, but this team just, for a long time, found a way to lose games. And with any game this season, it just can't happen, but especially this Denver game. We brought up the injuries. This is a team that you should not lose to. This is a team that you should be winning by multiple possessions. So just don't go in there. Yeah, I said it. You should. With as beat up as they are, you should beat this team by 10 plus.
I mean, I kind of agree, but yeah, I just don't see that happening. I mean, if they lose, man, if they lose, I would start to become real concerned that this team might not make the playoffs, because this is the type of game that you gotta win. Because I don't care if it's by 1 point and you win on a last second field goal, it's still a W. Like, you gotta win.
Absolutely, 100% right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the weekly checklist for this Week 3 matchup. Hopefully the Buccaneers do all 3 of those things on Sunday and they come out victorious. Before we really wrap things up, we forgot to do it on the last episode, which was kind of weird. Like, I didn't really think about it, but dude, we totally forgot. We got to do some final score predictions. So with that being said, Evan, I'm going to toss it to you. What is your prediction for the game this Sunday?
So I've always thought that even when the schedule came out, I always thought this was going to be a low-scoring game. And even with Denver missing their guys and the Bucs getting Chris Godwin back, I haven't changed that. So, all right, I'm going to go really tight game. I'll just go 17-14 Bucs. I think it won't be a last-second field goal. I think the Bucs, maybe they're up like 17-7 most of the game, and Denver scores a late touchdown or something like that. But I just don't. I think the Bucs will have just enough, and I don't think Denver will have enough on offense. If a guy like Courtland Sutton was playing and a guy like Philip Lindsay was playing, I think maybe even with Jeff Driscoll at quarterback, it would change my mind. But I just don't think they don't have nearly enough, and they fall just short. And I think the Buccaneers come out of Denver narrowly with a win. Maybe the Broncos had the ball with like 30 seconds left, and they're at like midfield or something. And like last year versus the Colts, when the Colts had the ball.
Yeah.
And they were sort of at midfield and they went for it on 4th down and they got stopped, something like that. I think maybe. So close game, but I think the Buccaneers probably win.
I've got a 1-score game, one that ends a little bit differently than yours, but I do have the Buccaneers coming out victorious 24-17, and I think they win this game kind of similar to how they tied the knot up last week. I think we see a last-second Leonard Fournette touchdown. He comes in.
So you think it's 17 all? For the most
17 all. Bucs get the ball 24-17, and then at that point it's either game over because it's the last drive of the game, or Denver gets the ball for 45 seconds and the defense goes out there and plays prevent really well and then stops them from doing anything at all. But I do have the Buccaneers victorious 24-17, and I will kind of reason with you. I agree. I think this is going to be one of the lower scoring games we see of the season. I think the altitude is a big part of that. We talked about how this team's going to have to adjust in game to how they do things. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it might cause them some problems at the beginning, but I think they ultimately bring it up at the end and come out the winners.
I think Denver might take the lead in the beginning just because I think the Buccaneers might still be getting a little bit used to it. So
absolutely. But with that being said, I've got the final score 24-17. You've got them winning. I've got them winning. Hopefully everybody listening has them winning. But if you have your own score prediction for this Sunday, go ahead and drop it down in the comments below if you're checking us out on YouTube. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire podcast. Thank you so much for checking us out on any of our podcast outlets or watching us with video over on YouTube. If you're doing that, make sure you click the subscribe button and turn on that little bell icon so you get notified every single time we release content. By the way, we got a lot of content coming to you guys this season. Every single week, we're going to be uploading 4 times. We've got our Monday episode after the game. Tuesday, we got a new Bucs break going up. Thursday, we've got the game preview edition every single week. And then Friday, I'm going to be uploading some special hype videos for that week's game. So I've kind of, gotten back into the habit of doing some video editing, and I've really been having some fun. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the highlights that we've released already. They do really well on the channel, so I'm looking forward to doing them every week. And the Broncos one is going to be coming out tomorrow, so keep an eye on that over on our YouTube channel. You can find the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Basically, the number one place to get caught up on the show, and of course, any Buccaneer updates as well. Another great place you can find Buccaneer news updates is my co-host Evan on Instagram. You can follow him at Bucks_daily, and then you can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. You can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at Retticus, RHETTAKUS, just for anybody who doesn't know how to spell it. And if you follow me, I'll follow you back. I am Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host Evan Wanish. We'll talk to you guys Monday after the game. Go Bucks.